Hello, everyone. This is Jashara, and I'm back with another tool build. I've been working with Claude agent teams to kind of help build out a team for different types of tasks that I think can help enhance or help a practice or just a business in or a company, excuse me, in a regulated industry. So what I have on the screen here is the HIPAA Command Center. Now, this is to solely focus on HIPAA documentation or paperwork. So, there's some small practices and there's mid-side practices to larger practices out there. So, if we're looking at dental practices, for example, you have practice managers who may need to understand how to keep compliance and understand HIPAA regulations, laws, which means it's not just about saying, hey, we can't share certain PHI data, but it's also about protecting that data as well, right? And making sure your systems are in place to protect that data because one mistake can cost you thousands and it happens all the time, especially if you're audited or if a breach happens. So whether you're a small practice, mid-side to a bigger enterprise, you want to have someone that is dedicated to focusing on your compliance, whether it's the paperwork, whether it's incidents. You just want to have someone focused on that area specifically. So I built a solution, which is an AI powered compliance team that solely focuses on documentation, access logs for your compliance component in your practice. So, how this works is you would have quick actions here, which will generate a quarterly packet, or if you have a breach response, an off form, or your NPP, which is a notice of privacy practice. The other additional thing that I have here is that there's voice commands, only because, when we're moving to the age of AI assistants, I think some people only think of them as phone callers, meaning, hey, I'm going to call this number and an assistant is going to pick up and have a conversation with me to collect information to either book um, a service or maybe go deeper in a conversation where lines are usually filled up, right? But in this day and age, you can also use voice agents for your tools to send commands, voice commands. So if you have a practice manager that's on the run, or your dentist is on the run, or certain employees, depending on the departments you have, are on the run, you can also use voice commands to help generate work or run tasks, I would say, for you versus just logging into software all the time. And that's the beauty of agents. Now, Claude just announced this, I would say last week, I believe. So, but multi-agent systems have been a thing before Claude, released this particular component or this feature. But I just decided to say, hey, how can I use this so that it works with, as an agent team? All right. So let's just see here how this dashboard works. So I'm just going to click quarterly packet here. And what I did, I created a few different types of agents. So one will act as the lead orchestrator. The next will act as the privacy officer, right? The audit agent and the validator. So you might say, well, what are their specific roles, right? Because they all have to have roles. Your agents need roles so that they're practicing least privilege access and they're doing a task that's specific to them. So I know the idea or the thought came up about agent employees. So now you have someone or something as an agent that can run as your privacy officer, and your lead orchestrator is kind of like your manager, right? Saying, hey, maybe it's your VP or your executive saying, hey, I need you, privacy officer, to get a package because we have an audit coming up, or do you have that package ready, or is it being prepared, right? Is your team preparing for the audit that's coming up in a few weeks? So privacy officer gets that information and starts talking to the team. So to see where we are at with the audits, have we been talking to different teams? And then it works with your auditor. So maybe you have a lead auditor already on site, or different other GRC professionals. And then you have your validator as well. And this is someone who's going to look specifically at your frameworks to make sure that you are in compliance by validating. Because I think that's a big thing. I think validation shouldn't just be something that you're saying, yeah, we got this on paper, or when it comes time for the audit, just because the auditor is working with 25 different tests, it doesn't mean the next time they may look for another test and you're not prepared for it. So, when we talk about continuous assurance, we want to make sure that's happening at all times. So we don't care if it's a new test that's going to happen with an auditor or a regulator coming in. We just want to be prepared. So now you can say in about 5 or 10 minutes, as you see that they're working together, in the agent communication, you'll see this change here where your lead is talking to your privacy officer or has talked to your privacy officer. So that's where you see both of them were working together. And the lead was routing the task to the privacy officer to begin drafting the HIPAA compliance documents. So that's what the privacy officer does. It drafts those documents. Then the privacy officer reaches out to the audit agent, and the documents that are drafted and saved are being handed off to the auditor because now they need to do the PHI log review. So again, that's from your systems, whether you're using Dentrix or other systems. And again, we're just speaking for dental, but this can definitely be used for different medical practices. Um, so if it's Dentrix, you can pull those reports of who accessed what in that system so that you can get better focused governance on who did what, right? And it's not just someone who may, again, nothing against practice managers. I just think, someone being dedicated and focused in access reviews and access logs, they can kind of point out, hey, this person should have not been accessing this patient's information as just a front desk person, maybe because they have not took the training yet, right? Or when you're training your employees, telling them about the practices of HIPAA and why we have least privilege access, it's for a reason, right? That could be also costly if someone becomes disgruntled or someone mishandles your patient's information. So now you have a tool of a team, you can say, that works together, and you have an auditor who would take care of that for you. So in about, again, 5 to 10 minutes, you would have a validated NPP, you have authorization forms, you have your audit report that is ready for your signature, and that's the human in the loop. Now, you might ask, how do you get that important information, right? So here, while the agents are still communicating with each other in the research phase, here is where you have your logs that can be imported into your agent team. So just as you do at work, hey, I'm tasking you to look through the logs through access reviews to make sure we're compliant because an auditor is asking about these, a certain amount of employees that they want to look over, right? So here you go saying, all right, perfect. I'm going to use this HIPAA command center so that I can make sure this set of employees are together and validated, right? Also for BAAs, because some practices are starting to use AI, and when we use an AI, it's not just about again a 24/7 AI receptionist agent, because AI will be embedded in different types of areas. For example, I've seen a radiology application where AI is being used, right? We know in certain cancer research, AI is being used. DNA, AI is being used to help enhance the tool. Nothing to take away from the doctor or anyone who's around that particular type of industry or methodology within the practice. It's more about how can we enhance and find things a little bit faster and more accurately to help guide us to perform better tasks or make sure we have the data we need, right? You also have the access logs, and some of this I imported already earlier, but you can see here by role. A dentist has one unauthorized access because even you as a dentist have to follow least privileged access. We have the receptionist that has one, a billing, employee as well. So again, any access logs you would just import here and by the PHI category, whether it is dental records, treatment plan, maybe financial, and I mean like billing, for example, or just certain demographics, you would have that shown here. So we see there's supposedly one unauthorized event. Then we have the business associates because, again, when we're talking about new AI tools or just software, you need to make sure that things are being governed correctly. And software doesn't mean it's always, again, a 24/7 AI receptionist, right? So when you're bringing new software into your practice, you need to make sure that it's still aligning with HIPAA security compliance, okay? And again, this is not about you going after the ISO 42001 or any other additional certifications. This is more about you being in compliance because when we're talking about AI, it's still something that may overlaps or be in the same arena as certifications that you already have gotten from your company when we're talking about access and data protection, encryption, still the same thing. You still want to make sure those AI tools are compliant. Now, while I was looking at that, as you see here, here's the human in the loop, right? So this is saying that a human needs to approve because these have already been validated. So we have the notice of privacy practices documentation, the authorization form, the PHI access audit report, and we have the compliance certification. So it found 6 gaps and there's 5 critical. So I'm just going to put a name. I'm going to use Dr. Sarah Chin and I'm going to approve and generate those PDFs. And, again, just to see the age of communication, you can kind of see what was happening here, right? But now you can see that the validator finally sent back to the lead all the documents that have been validated, the compliance report that's ready, and it was awaiting the practice manager's approval, right? Again, if you're a small practice, this will be a great tool to just be ready to go for storing your documentation for compliance, or when an auditor does approach your facility. You have the particular person, so it can be a practice manager or a doctor, who approves this compliance package. Because again, some practices are small, so they don't have a full team. I know of some practices I've contacted, and they don't have a practice manager. So you still want to make sure someone can sign off on that information in case you're asked about who signed off on this documentation. And then you have the lead system here, and that goes back to the lead orchestrator. So the compliance packages are complete, and it generated 4 different PDFs. So let's take a look at these PDFs here. And I'm going to pull these up. Let me just pull them all out here. And I'm going to do one more run for you. And only because the update NPP and auth form, we're already going to see those, but these are just to have updates to those same generated PDF files. So there's no need to really go after this today. And then you have the breach response. We're going to run that as well. But here's your incident dashboard. I believe I showed this. Let me just double check here. Oh yeah, so we can go over that incident report real quick here. But let's go ahead and look at the PDFs here. And as you see, because you have your practice settings already set up, you'll have your header with your practice name, address, phone number. Here's your notice of privacy. So this is a generated report for you that is ready to go. If you want to make any additional changes, we can definitely do that. But this is just to show you some of the reports that this generates for you. Here's our HIPAA PHI Access Audit Report, because again, access reviews should be conducted quarterly and or monthly, depending on how sensitive your software applications that you use are. But as you see, there's two critical um, access views here. So there's two critical gaps, and you have high and you have low. And here's the audit findings in the compliance gap. We can definitely make this look a little bit better, but here's your summary that will be here. And it will also give you remediation tips on how to remediate each finding. So that's awesome. Right now, it's just in markdown language, but that's nothing that we can't fix when we're generating these reports. But this is something that I can give you. So this is awesome because I've worked in environments where you have to. It's more tedious work, but if you had a tool like this, look how easy this can spit out reports for you, right? And send you an email if needed. Here's your authorization for use or disclosure health information. So here's your auth forms that you can send off to your patients or use for your patients, right? Look how nice that looks. Look how nice that looks. All right. And the last one here is the compliance certification. So here's all the regulatory citations that were verified and to show that you are signed off and the validator agent did sign off on this. So that's perfect. All right. So now let's go ahead and do the breach response. And while that's running, this is based on an incident response or a report. So with this voice command, someone can either call in because some companies, I'll just speak for the companies I work with, we have your privacy page so that anyone external or internal should be able to go to that page to make an incident report, or they can talk to the privacy team. For example, it may not be the privacy officer in particular, but someone would be assigned where you would talk to them and you would, report an incident and they would just document it for you, right? So you have that within here. You have credit monitoring as well. That's here. You have your contact information, and again, or you can send a voice command and or use it as a phone number, right? And you can just call in and it will set up the report for you. So you have that here, right? You have the encryption status. Some people will or will not understand that, but that's okay. You can just do unknown. If it affected any patients, detailed as possible, right? You have all of that within this form. And with that, it will, here's the incidents that we've already kind of submitted. But you will have a form and it will submit. Let me go ahead and approve this. And I'll just finish. Let me just finish speaking about this here. But the incident dashboard here just shows the different incidents that were submitted. And, this would give you information that you can export as well if needed for your auditor or if you need it for any other use case in your environment. So that's a pretty unique section. And again, if you're a small to medium practice, this is something perfect to help handle your environment if you do not have any tools like this. But again, this is more about creating an agent employee that specifically can handle your compliance for your environment, right? So I'll go ahead and hide that. Now let's go ahead and look at the breach notification. And as you see here, this breach notification is generated for the patients that the breach affected, because by law, and by regulatory standards, you need to either mail or email, whether it's customers. Let's just say this is used for a certain regulated industry, and it's not for in healthcare. You need to send this out to your customers or your patients or your members to make them aware of what happened and how their data may have been exposed or breached and what actions they can take, right? You're giving them guidance and you're letting them know, hey, there was an incident that occurred and we're just here to let you know. And look how this has generated a report, a breach notification that you can mail out to your customers. And everything is here, right? Everything is here already for you. And again, this can be changed up with how we write or communicate, which is perfect. Once you print these out in your office, you can complete them, have your doctors or your practice manager sign it, or you can have your privacy officer or your AI governance team, hello, sign this so that this is sent out properly to those who may have been involved in a breach. So this is just a notice of privacy breach. But look how awesome that has, came out and was generated just from the HIPAA Command Center. This is awesome. So again, it's not too much here. I'm just showing how agents work together in an agent team. And again, we built a Command Center. We have a voice command that you can use. It will do the same thing. But this is something that any small to medium practice, even a bigger enterprise level practice, can use simply to have reports and breach notifications generated and ready to go for any incidents that happen when we're talking about HIPAA compliance. So stay tuned with me, because I'm going to put out a few more series here of AI agent teams. I know I put out the AI construction for safety managers when we're talking about compliance in construction, but we also